Thank you enough for all showing up here. It just means a whole lot. And I tell you, this is not an easy thing, not an easy eulogy for me to do because he was my brother and just because he was who he was. It makes it very hard. And but I just sincerely thank you all for being here. And as you know, Merrill was renowned for his housekeeping abilities. No, that's a true statement, actually. He was very famous for his housekeeping abilities. I thought I would start out with something like that because I can hear his little laugh go, huh, you know. Anyway. Merrill was born March 4th, 1957, and all of us, we had identical mothers, so Margaret and Clyde and Lola and Merrill and myself, we grew up more like brothers and sisters, than cousins, and we were usually only a few miles apart. And Clyde was the older and wiser one, and I had thyroid problems, so I was like the fat kid. and then Merrill came along, but we discovered pretty quickly, at a very early age that he was very easy to rile up, I mean, we would tell him something innocent like, Clyde and I had brown hair and he had very blonde hair. We would tell him something innocent like, actually our parents found you in a ditch by the hospital or something like that, And we realized that, man, he would fall down on his belly, scream bloody murder, and beat the ground with his hands and feet. And we didn't do this to be mean, really. We did it just because he was so interesting to watch. But this is really true, And but this is the same time I discovered that he was a lot better rock thrower than I am, and he could run a whole lot faster than I ever could. And Lola told me actually, and I didn't realize this, that when he was in high school, he tried out for track, and he actually set some record that still stands today, And the track coach really wanted him to be on the track team, and he said no. And this was before any kind of testing was done, I assume, too. But anyway, let's see. I'm hoping that even right now, if you feel like if you got a story, just please help me out here. I can use all the help I can get. But if not, later on, I'd love to hear some Merrill story. I fed him dirt one time. When he was a little bitty kid, he would eat anything. He would eat old rotten sticks or paper, anything. Somebody mentioned something about a vitamin deficiency. So, one time I was going to do him a favor, and my mother gave me a little bit of brownie mix in a package, and I looked at it, and I was supposed to split it, and I thought, well, so I ate it and put dirt in it, thinking that he'd probably like that just as well. I mean, he's eating old sticks and stuff, but it didn't work out too well for me because he had one little pinch, and my mother filled my mouth up with dirt, so I never did that again. In first grade, he was like himself most of his life. He was a very kind of a quiet and withdrawn, little fellow. He went to first grade, and the teachers and the powers that be in the school decided that perhaps he had some, he had a little speech impediment too, like Woa, my sister Woa there. And so they decided that he might be mentally challenged, I think they call it nowadays, and so they ran tests on him. And I remember my parents, when they phoned back and they said, my God, this guy has a really high genius IQ. They were just shocked. And but I really think sometimes an IQ like that in its own way can actually be a mental challenge, Sometimes it makes it, harder to develop and, social skills. It really does. Some people can do it and some people can't. But, that was a part of his personality. He was very, very intelligent. And, when I think of him, my feeling in my heart is I just wish he could have been happier more often. You know, he had such a great heart, and he was, you know, he could be such a gentle person, and he just had a hard time being happy. It's just a shame, you know. You know, and I could sit and tell you about all the adventures we had for so many years, you know, Hawaii, and I can tell you that we're both. I'm lucky to be here. You know, he's lucky to live as long as he did. But you know, but we learned a lot. But the one thing I learned in Hawaii was he was bad with money. Anytime we would make anything, you know, selling puka shells or whatever we were doing, you know, he would go out and just spend it in one day, and I would buy like cans of pinto beans and stuff, so I just wanted to like eat a little bit every day, you know. and so he would always be there, you know, after that 2 days was up, and I didn't begrudge sharing my cans of pinto beans with him, but it just kind of, you know, I just thought, man, you got to buy some pinto beans. But he, you know, but he was very generous. That was the one reason I think he went out and just spent all of his money with people. You know, oftentimes he was just, you know, generous to a fault, but his heart was so wonderful. You know, that aspect of him is something I wish a lot of people never develop in their whole lives, and that's a beautiful thing. You know, and you know, and I really sincerely thank you all for being here, but a very special thanks to Clyde and Caroline and Margaret and Larry and Dean and Lola, because for the last few years, I mean, I will be forever grateful for the incredible amount of love and money and work that they put forward to sustain him through his last few years, you know. And so we'll say goodbye, you know, and here at this cemetery that our great grandparents donated. It'd be a good place for us to be someday. We'll all be here soon. So, but I can't thank you guys enough. You know, especially the family. It's just a powerful, wonderful thing. And you know, it seemed like I had some great. I'll just end up with a little Irish poem that I know Merrill liked, and I think that in some way it kind of sums up how he felt about his life, you know, himself, how he felt. And it goes like, of all the money that e'er I spent it in good company. Of all the harm that e'er I did, alas, it was to none but me. And all I want from lack of wit, alas, to memory I can't recall. So fill to me the parting glass, good night and joy be with you. Of all the comrades that e'er I had, they're sad to see me going away. Of all the loved ones that e'er I had, they'd wish me one more day to stay. And so it's cast into my lot that I shall go and you shall not. I gently rise and softly call, good night and joy be with you all.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for being here.
I think most of you know me, but for those that don't, my name is Dean Sicking. I'm Lola's husband. And I guess I've known Merrill about 40 years now. And, I want to say a prayer here, and then after I'm through, and I can invite anybody who has a story about Merrill, please speak up on this earth. We pray that the memories of Merrill's life will draw everyone gathered here closer to you. Help us focus on the good memories of Merrill and his great generosity. We ask that you go with each of us as we go our separate ways. Give comfort as we deal with Merrill's passing. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
I do want to say a few things. Last two years or so, he drove me everywhere I went. And the most common conversation was, how do we get our children to talk to us more? We counsel each other by trying to build stronger relationships with our kids. I know that was one of his biggest desires, through communication. And does anybody else have anything they want to say?
I just have a silly little memory from childhood. Because my brother Bill had a birthday about the same time as Merrill's, my mom, the talkative one on our side of the family, called Aunt Mary and to wish Merrill a happy birthday. And then she handed the phone to my brother Bill and left the room. And she said she came back a few minutes later and there was complete silence on both sides of the room. No one was saying anything to anyone. So taciturn is one of the words that comes into my mind for my wonderful cousin.
I had one. I met Merrill. He became my friend when he was going to Texas A&M. We had a class together, and there was a field trip, and we had to go somewhere around Fredericksburg. It was either a peach orchard or an apple orchard, and the kids who had money got to stay in a hotel room, and the kids who didn't have money got to camp out. And I guess about the time that the sun went down and we got all settled, the most giant mosquitoes came out. And I was so tired. By midnight, 1 o'clock, I was so tired. But Merrill, I guess he stayed up all night long and swatted mosquitoes off of me and at least one other person so we could sleep. Loving, generous heart.
He lived on the same property as me and my parents when I was a really little girl, so I knew him my whole life. And he was always so generous with his time and any spare cash that he had. And he was fearless. When I was 3 or 4 years old, he took to, we lived out in the middle of nowhere, so there were all these gravel roads, and he took to putting me on his lap and letting me steer the car while we drove down the road.
She was 4 or 5.
I was like 3 or 4 years old, and he would do the pedals, and we did not die, so he was a lucky soul. But I still remember that to this day, and he always, was a pleasure to spend time with, and we were always going on an adventure because he was not afraid of anything.
I did not know about this until much later.
We were all adults before she knew about this, apparently, but I thought at the time
after that
it was totally
experience, you didn't get your
sanctioned.
driver's license until you were like 25.
That's true, I did not get my license until I was 20. But it wasn't because of that. We got in 0 accidents.
I remember once he told me, he's like, at my funeral, I want you to write a 2-hour eulogy. And halfway through, you have to mention, and in my closing hour of this eulogy, so everyone there knew they were there for that much longer. Fortunately for you all, I am not good at preparing, so just... He had many different interests. I remember at some point he was taking up sword classes, and then a few months later we had a skateboard ramp in our backyard of the apartment. That just took up the entire backyard. It was just, you open the door, there's a big wooden pallet there and it slopes down. He inspired me to try many different things, and part of why I joined the Navy actually is to experience the world like he described his younger life. What I'll miss most, just him telling me these stories about what he would do, and just like, why? He couldn't remember exactly that part. He's just like, no, it
Seemed like a good idea at the time.
seemed like a good idea at the time. So, like I said, thank you all for coming out here. I appreciate that very much.
Oh, please. Can I say one thing here? Merrill was my brother-in-law. I'm married to Curtis. I'm Loretta. And Curtis and I first got our first little apartment in downtown Minneapolis, and we were playing music on the street for tips. We didn't have any money at all. Merrill drove up to Minneapolis from Dallas to see us, and was it a little tiny sports car or something? Some little car he had. Drove all night, all day to get there, and helped us move into this little apartment. It was $85 a month for this little efficiency apartment in the late 70s, and he paid our rent for the first month. And then we went shopping at the junk stores, because that's what Curtis likes to do. And I don't think Merrill liked junk stores too much, but we did. We went to the junk store, and I saw this fur coat that was $40. I'm like, wow, that is so
What a
cool.
fortune.
It was a seal fur coat or something, I don't know, but it was beautiful. And but there was no way. $40 was half a month's rent, but he bought it for me.
Ah,
was
who
generous.
needs a coat in Minnesota?
It was a
You
warm coat.
spoiled her.
He was generous to a fault. I loved him.
I believe. Where's Margaret? Margaret.
She's here.
Okay. I believe that little car he drove might have been a TR6. I just heard a TR6 story. Oh well, that's okay. I won't make her do it.
The last few years, Merrill lived at my house and then right next to my house. And he and I would go and do things because he's interested in all kinds of stuff. And we saw the eclipse together. We spent about an hour, although it only lasted about. we experimented, and there was like trees everywhere. So finally we drove out on the part that's just a meadow in the middle, and we got out our glasses that we'd ordered that we could watch it, and we looked up through the top roof of the car and watched that and tried to take pictures that would show it. And there were cool pictures, but they did not look like what we saw. And he kept on saying, we'll probably never see this again. And we didn't. But another thing that he totally enjoyed when he moved into the house, we bought a property and he was in a little house next to us. It was right next to the lake, and he totally enjoyed watching all the different birds come in, the Canadian geese, and I'd get pictures all the time. He even one time saw a whooping crane come through there. And at first I was very skeptical, but I looked up the description he gave me. Well, that just seems like that's about the only one. And we lived there in Nebraska for years, and that was a crane migration. So I looked it up, and as it turns out, there is a southern whooping crane migration that came to that area. So I was like, by golly, he did see it.
He was right.
He was right. But I loved him dearly. Even if I was one, he wondered why I spoke so funny. And goodbye, Merrill.
Well, my ever generous aunt and uncle. Does somebody else have another story? Kay and Elton are standing over there, persevering through all of these. They just happen to have the old home place, which happens to be right close to the Long Branch Cemetery. So I thought if anybody that wants to, I believe we can go over there
We have
to their
sandwich
house.
stuff.
They have some sandwiches. And I'm going to take my shoes off before I go in their house.
That's probably preferred.
But last time we were here, we visited them, and that evening we went out and there was a diamondback rattlesnake that was 4.5 feet long there. So you might want to check your shoes when you leave.
It's a little too cool for them.
Yeah, right now they're hibernating.
I don't know.
These
4.5
roses
feet.
Could
up
be a
here,
whooping crane.
everybody can get one and put them on his grave if you would like.
Get these of their grandparents.
Man, I thought we'd come to Texas and get a little more, you know. Yeah, you know, it's not that cold, but it's so wet.
Yeah, it is nice.
Oh, I know. I was watching that. You know, I was really glad I didn't say it was going to be 32. Yeah, that would have been bad. All right, let's see. So fast and ran every red light on the way to the hospital that it scared my dad to death. He was upset about his broken arm, but really, he was petrified having ridden to the hospital with Uncle Clyde.
Oh man, Uncle Clyde.
I mean, he drove 100 miles an hour anyway.
Oh yeah, he would drive fast.
I remember
Man,
Grandmother Merrill drove in one trip with him one time, and she got through, she got out, she kissed the ground and said, "Lord, thank you for saving me on this trip. I will never drive with him again."
With Uncle Clyde.
Yeah, he was. I imagine he got a ticket at one time or another.
Yeah, thank you.
I wish they had more bushes around here.
Yeah, there's no bathrooms over here.
Nowhere to go.
There's a shed.
There's one over there. You just have to hop the fence.
We got here one time, not very long ago. There were these little goats running around in here.
Curtis, can you take
Shooting dogs on the other side. Before long, here comes this guy walking down the road. Those damn goats! I don't know how they keep getting over there. Came has got his goats and took them back. So we'll probably have goat visitors still. Well, they jumped the fence. It was the guy that owned them that had to come down the road.
That won't lie.
No, he'll like it. It's like they say, the way that you keep goats in is you build the fence just as high and deep and thick as you can, and then you take a bucket of water and you throw it on it, and wherever the water goes through, that's where the goats will go through. Yeah.